We have another interesting week coming up where we will talk about two topics. The first one is the changing macro landscape, where we will talk about the trends in fiscal deficit, inflation rates, exchange rates, and household savings. The second is RMFs doing the right thing, where we will talk about the trends in the mutual fund industry, what mutual fund managers are buying and selling, and does your mutual fund work for you? If you are interested in any of our webinars, click on the description below.
What frequent changes do to compounding? When a person makes an investment, they do it with very high conviction. They do it with a lot of aspiration. And at the time of investment, ask them how long they will hold it. The answer would be, I'm in no hurry. I want to make high returns. I want compounding. But that conviction which they show at the time of investment gradually wanes or changes. There are different circumstances causing these changes. If the stock price moves up very quickly, that can be a very easy cause for people to change their mind. The moment they see profits, they are tempted to book them. And when profits come too soon, the tendency to book out rises very quickly and exponentially. So people who have bought great companies at the right valuations also tend to trade out when they make the first 20-30% profit. In the case of smaller companies, if the stock doubles, that becomes irresistible to most investors. So while making investment, they say that I can own it for 5 years or 10 years, but within 2 years, people change their stance because the investment starts to yield, or it delivers very quickly, or it gives them profits which they had not expected to come so soon. So at that time, what does the same person do? He books out. After booking profit, he starts looking for the next investment. Sometimes he takes the money out of the asset class, which is equity, and goes and buys a plot of land or a car or a mobile phone or a tablet or something, or even jewelry. So the money leaves the asset class itself to go somewhere else. Often the need to invest in some other asset class makes the person decide to sell. So the sell decision is driven by the need to buy some other asset class. So when a person does this, he moves the money out of equity, where he has projected to make a higher return, to invest in another asset class where he probably may not make the same returns. Sometimes people take this money out to repay a loan. Sometimes people take this money out just to consume, maybe for a holiday. So whenever they get an expedient need for money, a sudden requirement, the first thought that comes to this person is, this is in profit, let me sell this and use the money there. This approach basically interrupts compounding, disrupts compounding, and often stalls compounding. It stops the very process of compounding, because after that decision, people don't go back to doing the same investment again. People don't want to again restart the thing because they feel that they have achieved something by investing in that equity investment, and now they'll again do it whenever they feel like. This is where success happens in an equity investment. Now let me invert it and take you to a situation where the equity investment temporarily fails. Assume you bought equity investments in 2019. In March 2020, your investments were in very bad shape. When you bought in 2019, you thought you will hold it for 5 years, but you didn't. want to go through the pain once the market fell. So what do? You take it out. When in difficult times an investor interrupts his compounding and takes the money out, he often makes a loss. And when he makes a loss, he doesn't want to return to the asset class. Now assume that he didn't take that loss and he just allowed the investment to run. Today he would have still made a very handsome return over a 5-year period. I saw one such mutual fund portfolio of one of the persons who works for me. He had invested in 2019 and in 2024 had made a compounded return of about 19%, which in my opinion for a blended portfolio is a very decent return. Luckily, this person doesn't know about stock market too much, doesn't know about what happened in 2019, 2020, 2021 in the stock market, and just invested based on the faith that we will make a few choices which are right for that person. That's all. That lack of knowledge basically ensured the same person traveled for these 5 years. But I have seen scores of people who exited mutual funds and sold their stock portfolios in panic in 2020. Either they sold when the markets crashed or they sold when the markets rallied from the crash, and when they recovered their money, they quit. The same person enters the markets in the last 6 months. This is how, when a person sees a notional loss in a portfolio, they disrupt compounding and then they come back to restart their compounding journey at a time when it is not so favorable. When they exited, it was a time to do more investments. Instead, they took out the money. And when they are again re-entering, it's a time to be cautious while you make more investments. You must be very selective. And at times, they go to the same investments which they got out of. A person gets out of small caps in 2020 and returns to small cap in 2024. Both happen in the same month of June. Now you know what I am saying. So you interrupted compounding at the wrong time and you restart it also at the wrong time. This comes from the extreme loss aversion of a person. If a person is so loss averse, he should not invest in places which can show deep cuts and where notional losses can be very high when the markets correct sharply. So you need to be in safer places, products which suit your risk appetite, product which suits your emotional stability, and by creating that journey, you ensure that your compounding goes on uninterrupted. So this interrupting of compounding can happen when your returns come too fast or when you have short-term losses in the portfolio. Under both circumstances, it can happen, but the results in both circumstances are more or less the same. You don't sustain your compounding and you don't get the desired returns and you don't create the capital which you could otherwise have created. So your outcome in investing becomes mediocre or poor. This is something that you need to think about, and this is something that you should view differently. Learn to act differently when the circumstances are in favor and when they are adverse. When you act differently, you start bringing in a contrarian bent into your investing and make sure that you don't interrupt compounding at the wrong time and you run your portfolio to give you the full benefits of compounding over the long term. Thank you for watching this video.